here. And this is the center. We had this before. Okay, we're specifically looking at two things: the circumference of a circle and the area of a circle. What's the meaning of the word circumference again? Circumference? Fans? It's the distance around the outside or perimeter. Or sometimes the perimeter of a circle. So if I wanted to walk around the circle. Now this had very much got to do with that number that we looked at before our spring break, which was pi. Something that you may have seen in the Kahoot is that pi has a fractional equivalent. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. What was the fraction? It was 22 over 7, yeah. Sometimes that's used, but not very often. What's 22 over 7 give? 22 divided by 7? Well, we could do that. It's 3 point something. 22 divided by 7 is, well, it goes in 3 times. We know that, yeah. 21, and then there's a remainder of 1. 7 into 10 goes once. We're looking good so far. A remainder of 3. 7 into 30. 4 times, that's pretty good. Remainder 2. 7 into 20. Twice, yeah. Is it right? Still on the right track? No, it's gone slightly astray already, hasn't it? So it's not quite pi, but it's pretty close. The first 3 numbers are the same. So that's sometimes used for fraction equivalent. There are more accurate fractions, but this is the easiest one to use sometimes. Okay, so pi has got to do with the circumference and the area of a circle. Can anyone remember what I do with the circumference or how pi is calculated? How do we get pi? How do we get it? Almost. Circumference. It's got circumference and diameter together, yeah. Circumference. So if I have the circumference of the circle and I compared it to the length of the diameter of the circle, this one, if I multiplied it by 3.14, would equal that length. So this divided by this is 3.14. The circumference of the circle, the distance around the outside, divided by the diameter. The circumference is 3 and a bit times bigger. So the circumference can be found then if I know the diameter and then just multiply it by pi, or multiply it by 3.14, 159, etc. The area then, oh yeah, it's pretty simple. Yeah. There's another formula which you may see, which is 2 pi or. How is that the same as that? What do you think OR stands for? Radius, yeah. So how does that mean the same thing as that? Yep. So sometimes you can see this. C is equal to 2 pi or. C is the circumference. 2 radiuses are a diameter, and pi is just pi. And if you see letters shoved together, that means they are multiplied. So this means 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by the radius. And 2 radiuses are 1 diameter. So sometimes you see it written like that. Can you remember what the area was? We did this already. The area. How do we get the area? Remember I looked at some squares. What was it? Pi. It is pi times radius squared. One simple way of looking at it is if I split this circle into 4 squares, what's the area of one of these squares? Well, it's the radius here times the radius here. So radius times radius is radius squared. If I think about there would be 4 of those, but that's too big, isn't it? It's only 3 and a bit of those. 3 and a bit radius is squared. Or pi times radius squared. Pi times the radius squared. Remember, you're going to see the letter R used a lot for radius and D for diameter. You'll see that a lot, so just in case. And of course, the relationship between those two is diameter is 2 times the radius. Okay, so we've done all that before. Let's do some problem solving now. Okay, so let's find the area and the circumference of a circle. So let's look at this circle. We have 6 centimeters here. How am I going to get, let's start off with the area. How am I going to get the area of this circle? Pi times radius squared. Okay, so pi times radius squared, so that's pi times 6 with a little 2, which means pi times 6, of course. 6 squared is 6 by itself. So that is, well, one answer I can give straight away is 36 pi's. 36 pi. This answer is the most accurate. It's something that's called in terms of pi. You might see that sometimes. In terms of pi, the answer sometimes you don't need to actually use the 3.14, you just use the symbol. And that's called in terms of pi. But if they're looking for decimal places or something like that, I would have to then use my calculator. I'm going to have to multiply 36 times 3.14, etc. How do I do that on my calculator? Well, most calculators have a pi button. If you don't have a pi button, you can just use 3.14. And that's pretty close. So I would get out my calculator, which you're definitely going to need for this assessment, I think. So it'd be definitely easier with a calculator. You can do it without, but I think it's going to be easier with one, so you might as well get one. And you get around 113.04. And then you have to check what roundings it wants to. There's more decimals than that. I've rounded it to how many decimal places is that? 2 decimal places. And centimeters squared, which I forgot on this first one. Centimeters squared. So there's 2 ways. This is the decimal answer that has been rounded. And in terms of pi, just you leave it as pi, just don't multiply the pi. That's the area. Circumference then. I can see from my formula over here, I have 2 of them anyway. Diameter times pi, or 2 times pi times radius. What's the diameter of this circle? Diameter of this circle? So it's going to be 12. Yeah, I heard it whispered Zoe. So that's that total length, which is 2 6s, which is 12. So it's 12 centimeters across. So 12 times pi should give me my diameter, which in terms of pi is very easy. I just write 12 pi. But if I need my calculator, I'm going to get it out again. I'm going to do 12 times... if you use the pi button or 3.14, you get a similar answer. It's 37.68. So I'm just rounding everything to 2 decimal places. You could do the same for all your answers. 2 decimal places. This would be centimeters because it's just a distance. I'm just walking. It's not an area. Okay, so I use the diameter times pi, which is twice the radius. Okay, that's a pretty straightforward one. I'm going to do a second one, and then I'm going to let you guys do a few. I'm going to make it a little bit more tricky. I'm going to change this word to shape, but it's the same style of question. The reason for that is because I'm going to remove a bit of it. Now we have 8 centimeters here. And it won't be circumference, because that refers to a perfect circle. Now I'm looking at perimeter when it's not a circle. This is not a circle anymore. It's a bit of a circle. How much of a circle do I have? 3/4. And that's going to become very useful when I go to try and get the area and perimeter of this shape. Let's talk about the area first. What is the area of this shape? Now, there's no formula for 3/4 of a circle. There's only a formula for a full circle. 48 pi? Well, imagine it was a full circle. It would be pi times 8 squared, wouldn't it? If it was, which is 64 pies. But that's a full circle. But then you think about what fraction I have, and Nico's already got this, has he? What'd you do? Yes. Oh, that's nice, full circle. Yes, so you're talking about 3/4 of this. So I need 3/4 of that. So that's, how do I get 3/4? I divide by 4, multiply by 3. So 64 pi divided by 4 multiplied by 3. So 64 divided by 4, for those quick on the maths. 16, yeah. And multiply by 3 is 48, yes. So it's going to be 48 pi as in terms of pi. And then, of course, if I want my answer as a decimal, I would change it using my calculator. 48 multiplied by 3.14 and 150.72. I'm doing it all to 2 decimal places. You can do the same unless it says differently. Okay, so that's the area. It's 3/4 of a full circle. So sometimes you might get half a circle. You need to divide that by half. You good, Skylar? Yeah, you can ask.
How do we get the decimal again?
Do 48 times pi in your calculator. So this is 48 multiplied by 3.14 in your calculator. Yep. Okay, so I'll only ask for half of circles, or 3/4 of a circle, or a quarter of a circle. So you'd either have to divide it by 2 for half a circle, or divide it by 4 for a quarter of a circle. This is probably the hardest one. 3/4 of a circle is a little bit tricky. And now the perimeter. The perimeter of a shape is the distance if I walked around the whole thing. Yes. Circumference refers specifically to a full circle. So it doesn't work if it's not, this is not a circle. It looks close to a circle. So what is the circumference if it was a full circle is always what you think here. What is the diameter? 16 times pi, isn't it, for the circumference of a full circle, but I have 3/4 of this. So I can put a little 3/4 in front. So divide by 4, multiply by 3, and that does give 12 pies. Is that my final answer?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it could, 12 times 3.14 I can definitely get as a decimal, 37.68. 37.68. But if I were to walk around that shape, what have I not included?
The little part.
Yeah. So the perimeter is if I walked around the full shape. So I need to also walk this bit and walk this bit, which would add what to my total? 8 centimeters twice. 16 centimeters. So it's this plus 16, or plus 8 plus 8. So it's this answer plus 16, which of course is, quick maths, 53.68 centimeters. So just watch out that one. That might be a little bit tricky sometimes. This is centimeters squared. So that's what happens if I have a quarter or 3/4 of a circle for a perimeter and area. All right, so you have some written work to do now. It's up on Google Classroom. It will be homework for Friday. Gives you lots of time to do it. There's 2 documents, one on circumference and one on area. You can pick your color to do. You do at least one color in both.